electric.
Hi everyone, welcome back for another video from the EV puzzle. Time to talk about April's solar and energy statistics. It's the 1st of May today. I'm outside in the garden. It's a beautiful temperature outside. Seems to have changed, doesn't it? The end of April to the beginning of May, everything has changed dramatically. Instead of being cold, the heating is needed to be on. Everything just feels really spring-like outside. Everything's green, everything's lush, the grass is growing, birds are nesting, the farmer's ploughing the field behind me. It's a really nice feeling being outside and not feeling cold. Even though there's a nice wind blowing, it's not cold at all. Things have definitely changed. So how did April go? Because it wasn't quite like this. Okay, here's my solar stats. 821 kilowatt hours for the month of April with a high of just over 50 kilowatt hours. And how many days under 10? Just one day under 10 kilowatt hours. And to be honest, looking at that chart, it doesn't look so bad. So I've got a bit of confusion here. This is the worst April I've ever seen, and we'll see that in the stats here. Just looking at the dark blue stats there of 420 kilowatt hours for April 2024. That really is significantly lower than any other April previously. So it has been a poor April, but it sort of doesn't feel like it has been either. Looking at this chart, you can see that we've had a lot more solar energy than we did in March. So if we look at the right-hand side of this chart, you can see 2024 solar generation going up from January, February, March, and April have been more each time. So it is a lot, but it's just not as much as before. So this is my spreadsheet that I update on a daily basis, and I've got it color-coded on my solar generation. Red is under 10 kilowatt hours, yellow is 10 to 25, 30 kilowatt hours, amber is 30 plus, and green 50 plus. So we had one green day, just one red day in April, and all the rest are yellow and amber. So it just seemed as though we had 20 odd kilowatt hours every single day. The problem is, of course, previous Aprils, we've had even more than that. But I think the main reason as to why I've felt like it's been better than it really has been is because I'm on Octopus Intelligent and because I'm exporting energy now on an export tariff. So because I'm exporting all the solar, it almost doesn't matter how much solar we have. So I've been very, very relaxed about it. All of our needs for charging our car and doing everything else are powered from Octopus Intelligent on cheap rate overnight, and then I export everything. So I've just been more comfortable. I haven't been chasing solar and consuming it. This chart from Solaredge is quite a nice one. 235 kilowatt hours from our 2 kilowatt inverter, 2.4 kilowatts of solar panels. The dark green on the right hand side, considerably lower than any other April. So it really shows how poor April has been compared to other years. Our main array, the original 3.68 kilowatt Solis inverter with 3.9 kilowatts of solar panels, 420 kilowatt hours. And our east-facing gable panels, plus the 3 panels south-facing on our garage roof, 166 kilowatt hours. And it's that third array that we installed, this extra 166 kilowatt hours, that I think has helped as well, because without it, it would feel like we didn't have a lot of solar energy. With it, we've had enough. 821. It's a good number, isn't it, even though it's lower than normal. And for comparison to your own solar arrays, these are the numbers for the kilowatt hours produced per kilowatt of solar panels installed. So for April 2024, 107.69, that was our 3.9 kilowatt array, only 57.24 kilowatts per kilowatt of solar panels installed for our east-facing gable and 3 garage panels. There's much more shading with those. And the 2.4 kilowatt array, that's south-facing again, 97.92. So our Solis array, the original one, still generating the best solar generation per kilowatt of solar panels installed. Import from the grid, that's staying quite consistent for all of 2024. We're at 563 kilowatt hours imported on Octopus Intelligent, all at 7.5 pence per kilowatt hour. But as you can see on the right hand side of this graph, there's a lot more higher stacked bars here because we're changing how we're using energy. In previous years, I was self-consuming. And another graph that's looking different this year is export. 715 kilowatt hours exported to the grid. That's now the highest we've ever exported in any month, because normally we're trying to self-consume it, heating our hot water, charging our electric cars, trying to use the energy rather than export it. Now I'm not bothered because I'm using cheap rate energy and exporting it and making a profit from it. So this is very, very different. It's making all the graphs look different now and not as consistent. I'm not sure how happy I am about it. Visually, this energy graph from Home Assistant shows it quite well. We've got yellow there showing the amount of solar energy that we are consuming. That's nice and consistent. And then we've got blue, what we're importing from the grid and consuming, and then purple, what we're exporting to the grid. That's the solar energy. So our total solar energy is the yellow and the purple together, and the blue is what we're importing from the grid. So it shows the flow of what we're doing, a nice consistent base load being used from solar energy. This chart from Myenergi, that's showing the same sort of thing. The red is the import from the grid on a daily basis. The green is how much I'm solar self-consuming, and the yellow what I'm exporting. So it's just showing the proportions of what's actually going on a daily basis. The net result, though, is that we are exporting more than we're importing from the grid, and we're being paid twice as much for every kilowatt hour we export as every kilowatt hour that we import. So 15 pence for export, 7.5 pence for import. So we are in credit this month because we've exported more than we imported. So our total bill for the month of April, energy-wise, was £54.71, with an export credit on the bill of £107.25. Octopus points, only 820 for the month. There were no saving sessions, just £1.02. And the final benefit that we've had, the FIT tariff. We still receive a little bit of FIT money for solar generation on the first array. That was £29.40 for the month of April. And if we'd have stayed on deemed export, we would have only got paid £14.70. Instead, we were paid £107. It really is well worthwhile ditching deemed export and going for an export tariff. On to energy consumption then, and this chart is showing our air-to-air heating usage for the month of April in blue. In yellow, it's comparing to the previous period of March. So in March, it was much colder. We had the heating on a lot more. In April, we've hardly had the heating on, which is good news for energy consumption. I'm not using as much. I'm exporting more. Hence, I'm being paid more. And no, we haven't turned the heating off just to make more money so we can export all the energy. We honestly are just turning the heating on as and when we need to. This is the great thing about the air-to-air heat pump system rather than a water-based heat pump system. It's not left on continuously. We can turn it on and off and it reacts very, very quickly. Temperature-wise for the month, this is our loft temperature sensor. So at the start of April, we started to see an increase in temperature. So even the loft during the day was 15 to 18 degrees. And then we hit a cold spell where the temperatures just dropped quite a lot, even to the extent of having ice on the car one day. Hopefully, though, that's the last of it. Hopefully now spring is really here and we've got some warmer days ahead. Internal temperatures now, this is on this graph. You can see that they did dip when we had that colder spell in April, but at the end of April starting to rise. The average temperatures in the house are now starting to rise as well. It probably won't be long and we'll have air conditioning on. How daft is that? Battery-wise, our Victron inverter with Pylon Tech batteries is hardly being used now because we're using the grid from midnight till 5:30 in the morning. Then we've only got less than an hour now until the sun rises and we've got some solar energy powering the house. So there's very, very little use for a battery. So solar ends something like 7:30 in the evening at the moment. So we're then powering from the battery until midnight, and then from midnight till 5:30 we're powering from the grid, and we've only got less than an hour on the battery before it starts charging again. So the battery is not being used very much. You can see that here with the thin blue lines at the top of the graph showing the state of charge of the battery at 100% at the top. It's not coming down very far. But on the days where we have used the battery more, almost down to 50%, those are the days where I'm turning up export and actually exporting it as well as using the battery, giving the energy from the battery back to the grid, being paid 15 pence for it, then refilling it up at 7.5 pence. I just can't quite bring myself to export the entire battery to try and maximise the amount of profit we get from selling energy back to the grid. It just seems that 7.5 pence profit doesn't seem enough for the cycle on the battery. So I'm compromising at the moment and just giving a bit back to the grid. The Myenergi data is showing that we put 67.7 kilowatt hours into hot water. That's into our Mixergy hot water tank for the month of April, which is a decent number. It's not the lowest we'll have, but it's most certainly not the highest. We're not putting very much solar energy in. Most of the heating is done overnight at the 7.5 pence, and then just occasionally it tops up to keep the water at 50 degrees or above 50 degrees during the day. So very little solar being used. The Zappi, no solar is being used on charging our electric cars, just Octopus Intelligent, 316.6 kilowatt hours. And finally, the house, 363.9 kilowatt hours house consumption, which includes the battery being charged up. I do like having the Mixergy hot water tank and the extra data that provides, and the separate sections, the sections in the hot water tank for the hot water and the cold water being separated so the two don't blend, so you never get warm water. So our heating of the hot water section heats up to 55 degrees when it's at the peak temperature, and during the day, if it drops below 50, I re-top it up with solar, but overnight it will reduce down, so it's been reducing down to below 40 degrees there before it reheats up for the next day. But you have to remember, sometimes the hot water section has only got like 5 litres of water in it, so it soon loses the heat from the water. So it's not a lot of energy being lost with the temperature being reduced because there's so little water in that section of the tank. Well, I'm on about take 5 or 6 here, trying to explain the cold water section. So this is the section of the Mixergy tank that has cold water in it, in theory, and it's mostly 10, 11, 12 degrees for most of April. But on the left-hand side of the chart, where we filled the tank to 100% hot water, therefore there is no cold water in the cold water section, it had warm or hot water in it. That's where we can see quite a few days there with the cold water section actually having warm water or hot water in it. I hope that makes sense. It's only when we filled the tank 100% full that the cold water section actually goes warm. And that's demonstrated here with this chart from Mixergy showing the current charge, the percentage of hot water that is actually hot. At the start of April, you can see we went up to 100%. It was all fully hot water. And then we haven't done a cleanse since. It's supposed to do it every 2 weeks, but I fiddle with the dates and prevent it from doing it. I only wanted to do it once a month. I really wish Mixergy would allow us to do that ourselves rather than try to force a cleanse of the tank to avoid Legionella, etc. The interesting thing on this chart, though, is how much hot water we actually live with. So we only need 20 to 30% of our tank of hot water hot during the day. So we only heat 20 to 30% overnight and then just top it up a fraction during the day as well. We don't need a very big hot water tank. The 150 litre tank that we have is way too big. Apart from if I want to fill a bath, then I need about 140 litres. Going back to solar for a moment, this chart is showing the peak kilowatts that we're generating during the day. So you can see that we're peaking at roughly 7 kilowatts on some of the high days, but it's consistently, most days of April, we've had some part of the day generating more than 6 kilowatts of solar energy. So it doesn't seem as though it's been that bad. There's only that one day, around the 27th or whatever that is of April, where it's really, really low. And the Myenergi summary screen incorrectly showing that I'm only 23% green. Really, it just means I'm only consuming 23% of our solar energy. The rest I'm exporting, which is still being very green. Onto our two EVs, the Mini Electric and the Kia Soul Electric. As you can see from these charts, these are the range indicated on the GOM for the two cars. The Mini just sits there around 80 to 100 miles most of the month. I only drove it 171 miles in April, which is shameful, isn't it? The Soul, on the other hand, did nearly 1,400 miles. And yeah, Susan's taking that on some good journeys and running that nice and low, coming back with just 8, 9, 10% after a journey. So what else has been going on here in the month of April? Well, to be honest, it wasn't April. I think it was before that. But did I tell you that we've actually got rid of the oil tank now? I've cut it up with a reciprocating saw and got rid of it. So we now have no oil tank at all connected to the oil boiler. So there's no chance of it being connected. And who would want to? Look at this horrible sludge that's in the bottom of the tank that we had to get rid of. The other thing that I've been doing is planning where to put my garden solar. It's going on the right-hand side of our garden here alongside the fence line, right up against the tree at the far end and then coming down the garden. Plus also, we've been refitting our bathroom. Not me personally, we've got a plumber in who's been doing it. And here's the almost finished result. Sadly, the installer got right to the end of the project and then fell off a ladder at home, so we've now got to wait for the sink and toilet to be fitted. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video and the statistics. Don't forget to join in with sharing the statistics from your own system or your plans for your own system. The more you can tell us all about what you've done, what you're planning to do, and how well you've been getting on with your solar and energy consumption. It's a great community, and it's great to hear the variety of systems and the variety of people using energy differently. So yeah, please contribute in the comments below. I do enjoy seeing them. I try to respond to every single one. Thanks again for watching. Take care. See you again soon for more videos. In fact, watch out for the next one, because I've got I think it's a really interesting video about solar panel size and portable panels, and how I thought I just wanted more power, but it turns out more power isn't always the best thing.